Wow, this place is orange. I've got a lock on his transponder. He's not far from here. And until I find him, I present to Noah in the next episode, Heart of Glory. We jump right in again, with Worf informing Picard of a Starfleet report of a battle in the neutral zone. No info on who's involved, and they've been asked to investigate, even though there's been no reports of Federation vessels in the area. They also offhand mention the saucer separation feature, just to wave it away like, shit, we aren't doing that again on our budget. Then they warp away to the same shot and effect as in the opening credits, and I'm just now noticing how all the exterior warp shots are constantly recycled as well. Yar says her sensors show recent photon explosions and phaser activity. Sounds like magic. A simple explanation of that coming from damage or debris analysis might have sounded more believable than, my sensors rewind time. Data says the debris is likely Romulan. Spoiler, it's not. And this intrigues and almost excites the crew, as the fools haven't interacted with the Romulans for so long that they forgot how dangerous they are. Which, trust me, is very. Data then says he found a ship with failing life support and other systems inoperative. They enter the neutral zone for a closer look and realize the vessel is Talarian. That sounds familiar also. I don't know what happened with this episode, but Worf has some harsh shadows, and Data at one point had so much reverb in his line. It feels a little odd, maybe slightly rushed production-wise. They decide to board the cargo ship to look for survivors. Picard says it feels like a trap, and Riker agrees. Epic titles. And now the captain drops his log. Meanwhile, Geordi hooks a Bluetooth antenna to his visor to put it in GoPro mode. He, Data, and Riker beam over to the cargo ship and find it a mess. Also, Geordi sees in Predator vision apparently. And who the fuck are these guys? The 80s effects are meant to convey how the visor is a constant sensory assault of information on different visual spectra. Geordi says he's learned to focus on one the way we focus on a voice in a noisy room. There's a great bit here where he's surprised to learn no one else can see Data's electrical discharge aura. But enough of that. People could be dying. Data says there's life signs in engineering, but all paths there are equally dangerous. To which Geordi immediately asks if one of the equally dangerous routes is safer than the others. And I start to realize how much patience Data has for these humans. Geordi also sees a fissure forming in the hull, and this finally instills a sense of urgency in these guys. Data tracks the signals to a stuck bulkhead and forces it open, where they are met with Klingons. I love these guys. Really know how to party. These look pissed though, and Worf looks like he just sharded his pants. The lead Klingon is Chorus, and he refuses to let Data carry his downed comrade, demanding to carry him himself. The ship is about to break up, and the team rushes away from the core to beam away, but there's still too much interference. And Yar is a transporter chief now? Y'all really have nothing for these poor girls. Is Troy even in this episode? The ship explodes, but they beam away just in time. Picard and Worf meet them in sickbay, where the Klingons immediately judge Worf for taking orders from a human. They also tell Picard they were passengers on the Talarian ship. Picard asks what they were doing in the neutral zone, and Chorus says they fought some Ferengi and ended up there accidentally, which Worf calls out as bullshit. A slighted Chorus demands Worf's name and verbal confirmation that he is part of the Fed crew, then says the Ferengi had Klingon weapons. Picard asks why they attacked in the first place, and the Klingons say they don't know, but the captain sucked, and that's why they went down. They say they took control of the ship and feigned surrender before firing Mercurite rockets at the Ferengi, destroying them. Picard says there's some holes in the story, and the Klingons are suddenly very hungry and very tired. Worf escorts the Klingons to their quarters. When they leave, Picard tells Riker to investigate Chorus and co. In the meantime, Chorus invites Worf to stay for food and 20 questions. We learn Worf is the only Klingon in Starfleet, which I'm going to break character out of real time for a moment and admit when I was a kid, I always thought at first they were implying after the Khitomer Accords and enough time, Klingons and humans started working together, and there were more in Starfleet. I genuinely believe that this was meant to be the case, but after the disastrous introduction of the Ferengi, Worf's new backstory and uniqueness was conceived to keep Klingons semi-antagonistic. What is it like for the hunter to lie with the prey? Have they tamed you? Or have you always been docile? Are you gentle? Do glorious battles no longer inspire your dreams? They jab. You mock me. Worf calls them out on trying to incite him, and lets them know he can and will still go hard. Then Picard comes over Tannoy to report the injured Klingon is dying. In sickbay, Chorus holds the young Klingon's eyes open as he dies, and all living Klingons throat sing before roaring to Kahless up in Stovacor. Then Chorus's man Conmol surreptitiously steals a boot spike off the dead guy. I say he was sneaky, but it was obvious and sus as fuck. But not like this crew noticed. Crusher asks about the body, and the Klingons say treat it like the empty shell it is. Then, walking with Worf, they bemoan their comrade's death would have been more glorious if they were fighting an actual enemy, which makes Worf inquire exactly who they were fighting then. Chorus admits the truth will anger him, and that they are, despite curious teasing, brothers. Interesting. I bet Worf will be received as a brother by all Klingons now. This leads to some lore on Worf. No, not that lore. The Romulans attacked the Khitomer outpost, killing everyone but Kid Worf, who was found by a human Starfleet officer who took Worf to his home on the farming colony of Galt and told his wife to raise him as their own. The Klingons then go all Freud on Worf, how he must have felt his wild nature, and it must have caused him so much struggle, pain, confusion, and isolation, being alone and ostracized for natural behavior not understood by others. These Klingons are more empathetic than the Betazoid. Worf says he has these feelings, but they do not rule him. Chorus says it's impossible to hide Klingon nature, but to fit in, Worf has to, and that takes a true warrior, admitting he doesn't mock Worf. He salutes him. The Klingons say the Fed Alliance is killing their souls, and they actually stole the freighter to run away to a better life somewhere as true Klingons, and then admit they're fugitives, and were fighting other Klingons in the neutral zone. This enrages Worf. Chorus curses the peace with the Feds, and Worf doesn't blink that he's a living embodiment of everything these guys vehemently despise and just murdered their own over. Jesus Christ, I'm baking alive out here, and I'm pretty sure this is a medical device.
The signal origin is not far ahead now.
I'm gonna kill that Vulcan, even if he's already dead.
Oh, you're so tough.
Back on the bridge, Data says another vessel is approaching, and Picard says keep an eye on it. Data then speculates that they're the first outsiders to see the Klingon death ritual, which was more of a scream than a ritual, but okay. Data says the scream is a warning to the dead that a Klingon warrior is on his way. Okay, that is kind of badass. Just then, Geordi pulls up the approaching vessel, and it's Klingons. Picard hails them, and he's answered by Commander Kanera. Kanera says Chorus and co. are criminals and fugitives. They stole the freighter and destroyed the last Klingon cruiser sent to capture them. Back with Worf, he's showing the Klingons around the ship when they wonder aloud what it'd be like to take this ship into battle. Worf says that they are old hat, and their passé ideals belong in the past. Take note, trumpets. Yar shows up with a bunch of gold shirts, and Chorus and his terrible makeup line try to tempt Worf to join them and steal the battle bridge. Worf doesn't budge though, and the renegades are taken into custody where they speak Klingonese to each other. On the bridge, Picard tells Worf what's up, and Worf brings up that they'll be executed. Picard says it's out of his hands and apologizes. Kanera hails them to request prisoner transport, and Worf requests permission to speak, which is granted. Worf greets Kanera in the Klingon tongue, and then pleads for the men to be banished to a planet in the Hawley system to die with a weapon in their hands, and not executed with dishonor. It's a really passionate speech that gives a lot of insight into Worf and modern Klingons, a masterclass in the theme of civility over instinct. Though it's all for naught, as even feeling the same, Kanera has his orders also, and demands the prisoners, who we cut back to assembling a bloody disruptor from parts hidden in their clothing, like the boot spike we saw earlier. Also, their Klingon theme is amazing, and definitely more movie-level caliber. Wink wink. They use some plate-like object to break the containment field of their cell, and then they blast the poor guy who ran in, and Chorus steals his phaser. Conmail gets blasted like 5 times before he goes down like a G. Then Chorus phasers the Fed drone who did it and takes the disruptor. Yar just says, "Oh, my guy is dead, but aren't you gonna try and use your future magic medical devices on him? Huh? Okay." Chorus runs to engineering. "And where are you going, guy? What's your plan? Why are you looking at the warp core like that? Don't be stupid, bruh." He points his disruptor point blank at the center of the warp core and demands to speak to Worf, so Picard brings him down. Chorus again wants Worf to help him take the battle bridge, but this time he wants Picard to just give it to them, and then they can go be space pirates like me. Worf pulls his phaser and tells Chorus to disarm, and Chorus is literally heartbroken. He genuinely doesn't recognize the world around him anymore, but he also doesn't understand that he wasn't left behind or robbed of something. He just never moved forward with the world in the march of progress, which I promise is always for the better. Worf tells him he looks for battles, but the true battle is within, as Chorus himself noted earlier. It's all good to talk about glory and conquest, but really, if we're going to actually be as civilized as we pretend to be, we have to overcome a lot of the things we have inside, because they're not always right, and most often just selfish. Chorus screams that Worf is no Klingon, and Worf says perhaps not, and fries his ass. Chorus falls through the glass floor of the upper engineering deck, and dies, but not before Worf can get to him, and hold his eyes open during the death rattle. And then Worf screams. Fuck Conmol, I guess. Picard tells K'nera the Klingons are dead, and Worf informs him that they died well. K'nera seems to respect Worf also, even saying, come serve with me when you're done over there, especially with what you know now. Again, I'm sure the Klingons will always respect Worf so much and never hate him for no reason and act like they have the whole time. Set warp for credits. Engage. I bloody loved this episode. This was far and away the best episode of the season so far. Real time. Heart of Glory, originally airing on March 21st, 1988, is significant for its deep exploration of Klingon culture, a race central to the Star Trek universe, and for developing Lieutenant Worf's character. The episode delves into Worf's struggle with his Klingon heritage and his place in Starfleet. It portrays the tension between his personal identity and professional duty, a recurring theme in Worf's character arc throughout the series. Central to Klingon culture is the concepts of honor and glory, and this episode examines how different Klingons interpret this ideal. Chorus and Conmel see honor in battle and the warrior's life, while Worf grapples with a more complex understanding that includes his duty to Starfleet. Worf is torn between loyalty to his Klingon roots and his duty to Starfleet. This episode explores how these loyalties can be in conflict, and how Worf resolves this by staying true to his principles. Directed by Rob Bowman, known for bringing a cinematic style to the series that helped define its visual tone, and written by Maurice Hurley, Herbert Wright, and D.C. Fontana. Dorn's portrayal of Worf brought depth to the character, and in time, would make him one of the most popular and enduring characters in the entire Star Trek franchise. Vaughn Armstrong brought Chorus to life. Armstrong is notable for his 12 roles across the Trek franchise, but his performance as Chorus is particularly memorable for its intensity and conviction. Charles H. Hyman's Conmel complimented Armstrong's performance. The episode's sets and visual design were critical in portraying the damaged freighter and the distinct aesthetic of Klingon culture. The designers paid close attention to detail, reflecting that rugged and militaristic nature of Klingon life. The Klingon costumes were carefully designed to reflect their warrior culture, with traditional armor and insignia. These designs helped convey the characters' backgrounds and motivations visually, and hearken to the OG crew's movie costumes. Michael Westmore, the makeup supervisor, was instrumental in creating the iconic Klingon rigid forehead, the species' hallmark. Ron Jones composed the score for Heart of Glory, using motifs that underscored the tension and drama of the episode. The music played a crucial role in heightening the emotional stakes of Worf's internal conflict. And of course, the Klingon theme from the motion picture was here. Marvin Rush's cinematography utilized shadows and lighting to reflect the episode's themes of internal and external conflict. His work helped create a visually dynamic episode that emphasized character interactions and tensions. And it definitely stood out, for better or worse. The episode is notable for its contribution to Trek lore, particularly in its portrayal of Klingon culture and politics. It helped establish Worf as a central character in The Next Generation, and laid the groundwork for future storylines involving Klingon society. The episode's exploration of cultural identity and personal honor resonated with audiences and enriched the universe. The episode remains a fan favorite for its action-packed narrative and deep character development. It set a precedent for how the show could tackle complex themes while maintaining its adventurous spirit, marking it as a significant installment in the series. There's no ship here. Looks like he just ripped out his transponder and attached it to something.
Hello, you have reached Car. Sorry I'm not in at the moment, but please leave your name and contact information, and I will return your communication request at my nearest convenience. Unless you are Captain Sedgwick, in which case you can find yourself abused for sexual desires in an unpleasant manner. Thank you and have a nice day.
Did he just politely tell me to get fucked? That can't be good.